Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here for this very special session. I am thrilled to introduce our guest, Dr. Karen Kan. Dr. Karen is a doctor of light medicine, an international best-selling author, visionary, and pioneer in the fields of healing, consciousness, and spirituality. Her mission is to empower spiritually conscious people to harness their intuitive, healing, and manifesting superpowers so they can reach their highest vibration and help anchor in a brand new reality of love, joy, peace, and harmony for all. Karen, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Melissa, for having me. I'm so pleased to be here.
Yeah, so, oh my gosh, there are so many things that I want to ask you. So just kind of to start, I'm curious if you can speak to the experience of the sensitive people, the sensitives that are listening, kind of why things feel so much harder for us in life, why things don't just happen to feel easy, why as sensitive people we can't just breeze our way through life, and why it often feels like it's just a burden to be highly sensitive.
Thank you so much. This is a great question. There are so many people that I work with who are highly sensitive, who grew up thinking that there was something wrong with them. They thought they had to be fixed. People were telling them to stop being so sensitive. I remember hearing from my ex-husband, oh, just let it wash off you like a water off a duck's back, as if it was easy. Well, it's not so easy because us sensitives do feel a lot. We feel not just other people's emotions, but we feel other energies, which may or may not be good for ourselves, like electromagnetic radiation, toxic fumes, things that are buzzing in the background. Like some people are so sensitive, they can almost hear the electricity in their walls and it bothers them. Some people are so sensitive, they can feel hurricanes coming or earthquakes. I had a patient one time who would predict earthquakes based on her body shaking. It was very, very interesting. So we get these negative messages. So that does not help because, first of all, we already are sensitive. We're feeling all this stuff. And then the average person, and maybe our parents or well-meaning friends, are telling us we're wrong, we're bad, we're broken, and we need to be fixed. And I'm here to say, actually, no, that sensitivity is actually a superpower, which is why I wrote my book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower, because I went through that. My mother went through that. We were made fun of, unfortunately. And I felt really bad about myself. And I felt like I had to hide what I was really feeling. And, I'd be made fun of if I was crying at commercials, things like that. And I didn't know there was another way. And what I found, Melissa, now that we know through Elaine Aron's work for highly sensitive people that there's actually 30%, it used to be 20, the latest research from 2018 is 30% of the population is considered highly sensitive, then that's a lot of people. So we don't get any chance to learn how to manage that in school. And because we're not managing it, and because these energies of the world seem to be amplifying. Some people call it the ascension process or the expansion process. And with that, there is extra energy that we feel. And I found huge increases in autoimmune disease, depression, anxiety, chronic pain. And if highly sensitive people don't know how to manage their sensitivity and their energy field, they get it worse than others, unfortunately.
Yeah, it seems like as highly sensitive people, it's either the better it gets, or the worse it gets, the worse it gets, right? And so either we seem to really be thriving in our lives or really struggling in our lives. And the same could be said for our health and our well-being and all aspects, right? So where do we go from knowing that? So, I always say when we're doing these sort of sessions that the people who are really, really thriving may be tuning in just for a little bit of extra support and input and guidance. But for the most part, people who are tuning in are struggling. Something is going on that isn't working for them, or they may just feel really inundated by all of those energies in the world that you were referencing. So what do we do as highly sensitive people? How do we navigate living in this world that wasn't really designed for our nervous systems?
Well, there's three mistakes that sensitive souls often make. One, we already talked about, that they think there's something wrong with them. So instead of seeing their sensitivity as an asset, they see it as a curse. But mistake number two is that they don't know what to do with that energy, right? Like you're talking about. So there are many different ways of clearing energy that is not ours from our energy field or our energy space. And actually, my free gift is going to give you a really quick and easy way to do that. And later on, we'll talk about a process that can also help as well. But the third thing is that people don't realize that because they're highly sensitive, they are here for a purpose in this time of great, let's just say, of great change. There are people who, even though they're frustrated with, their bodies seemingly falling apart, somebody else could suddenly get better with just stopping sugar, but not us sensitives. We can stop sugar and gluten and dairy and, blah, 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 wear EMF protection clothing and get rid of our cell phone, and we still feel yucky, right? So one of the things that many, many, many people have not thought about is it possible that as we come in as sensitive souls in this reality, this time, who knows, maybe we have other lives, right? But this time, is it possible that we are here for a purpose? Our sensitivity is here for a purpose. And what I've discovered on my journey working with thousands of people and doing thousands of healing sessions is that there are actually 5 self-responsibility or healing types. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I notice is that people that are highly sensitive, who have this amazing purpose to share their beauty and gifts with the world, are often healing types 3, 4, and 5. Those are the higher levels. So they tend to have more difficult problems. They tend to be sicker if they're not balanced early on in life. And they tend to have, let's just say, more challenging personal growth things that they have to go through. So if you would like, we can talk a little bit more about the different healing types and what they are.
Yeah, I'd love to. But before we even go there, I just want to clarify something that I think you heard, that I think I heard you say, which is that those sensitive people who find themselves in these higher healing types also find themselves in like a deeper struggle. Is that accurate? Is that what I heard you say?
Not all the time, but a lot of the time, if they have not been supported in their sensitivity growing up, then sometimes they can get into trouble, meaning that they don't know who they are, they don't know why they're here, and they just think it's a curse, there's something wrong with them, they need to be fixed. Then yes, those that are at the higher healing types, especially healing types 4 and 5, can get into a lot of trouble and can get very sick physically because they haven't managed their energy field and because they happen to be some of the most sensitive people on the planet.
Right. So is it maybe good news for people who are really, really struggling right now to know that as they move through it, as they heal, that the potential for them to have a really positive experience is there? It's just a matter of moving through the process to get to the other side of it.
Very much so. In fact, oftentimes the more sensitive the person is, or should I say, the higher spiritual responsibility type they are, the healing type, the more they're able to actually use those gifts to manipulate the quantum to create and manifest what it is they wish to see. And in fact, many of my students and clients who are healing types 4s and 5s have grand, if you will, missions, which once they have their spiritual gifts harnessed and able to use them, can do some amazing healing work in the world. I mean, our group alone, even beginners, we teach them how to do weather magic, for example. That's actually in my book. And we will move hurricanes, Australian bushfires. We got it to rain within 48 hours of doing the weather magic. Jakarta was flooding. We got the rain to stop there, at the same time. So we've done lots of different things. So the higher responsibility level, some people are afraid of that. But I'm here to say, for those of you that are higher levels, and we'll go into how do you figure that out in a moment, that you've done easy already. If people believe in alternate timelines and past lives and things like that, they've already evolved past those other I don't want to say lower levels, but those other levels. So now their soul is giving them a challenge so they can grow even further. So somebody who is even very sick could be here really to resonate a frequency of compassion. And them being sick and having to go through that and being able to love and be self-compassionate, compassionate for others and forgive and all the things that they might do in that growth challenge actually emanates a positive energy field or reinforces one that's already there. We call those positive morphic fields. At least that's what Rupert Sheldrake, PhD, called them. And it's like people can tap into that field of beautiful energy, and it makes it easier for everyone.
Cool. So I'm like chomping at the bit. So tell us about what these 5 healing types are. What do they look like? How do we know where we are? How do we move up the kind of the ladder of them? It sounds to me like there's no judgment or bias implied when we talk about higher and lower. It's really more of a frequency thing. Am I getting that correct?
Well, there's definitely no judgment. So thank you for sharing that. In fact, when I first described the 5 healing types, actually it was 4 at that time, but some of the 4s have evolved to a 5. So we'll go and tell you what that's all about in a moment. At the beginning, people didn't want to have those challenges, right? So they tested, or I tested them as a healing type 3 or 4. And because they were having physical challenges, they were like, how do I get to a 1? How do I get to a 2? And I was like, well, I probably shouldn't have called it healing types. I probably should have named it spiritual responsibility types or something like that, because unfortunately people were thinking, well, I just want it to be easier. And our human minds were like, oh, yeah, I know. We want it to be easy. But that's why I say, well, you probably have done easy already. And so this is your next step in the spiritual evolution. So there's absolutely no judgment about it, whether someone's 1 or 5 or better or worse. We're all evolving. So it's where you are on the evolutionary scale, if you will. And it's in some ways, an arbitrary label for something that is not labelable, if that's a word.
Absolutely.
Let's start with healing type 1. So healing type 1 is the type of person with relatively low spiritual responsibility. And I don't often see them because they don't need any of my help. They may or may not be sensitive souls, but their job here on the planet is to enjoy life, is really just to experience time in a human body. Of course, everyone has problems per se, but they're only really responsible for themselves and their journey and just experience life. So that's kind of how I describe the healing type 1s. Now, the healing type 2s do have additional things expected of them. Again, it's more focused on personal healing. But in this case, in order for them, say they have an illness or a disease or something like that, in this case, they may actually have to take more responsibility to, for example, watch their diet. What about their emotions? What about their beliefs? So then they may have to delve a little deeper to learn, how do I release negative trauma or emotions from the past? And so things are just a little bit more challenging in terms of, you can't get away with stuff like the healing type 1s could. So if somebody's a sugar addict, right, they may not be able to get well unless they stop eating sugar or heal the things causing them to be addicted to sugar. Now, the healing type 3s look at the healing type 2s and go, well, that's easy. Because by the time someone's evolved, and usually we stick to the same healing type for the whole lifetime. There are some exceptions. If somebody has a walk-in or walk-out soul, that's beyond what we're talking about today, but sometimes we can change healing types. Usually it goes up, not down. So the healing type 3s are not only responsible for their own personal healing, because again, we talk about how when we heal ourselves and we work on ourselves, we create a positive morphic field or reinforce one that's there, and that helps everyone in the world, help to heal. So the 3s, not only are they responsible for themselves, but they're actually responsible for a bigger group. And that could be their ancestors, that could be just their family, that could be their community. For example, I had a Trinidad healer who was feeling very scared to do what she does, but she's very clairvoyant, very sensitive. And she was afraid to open her mouth because she thought that the people there would think she was doing black magic, and she was doing the opposite, really. So I gave her some scripts on how to say things in a way that their culture would accept and be in a state of curiosity rather than condemning. So the healing type threes can sometimes be in charge of the whole planet. I know that sounds like a lot, but this is what we see. They can be in charge of the environment. Sometimes they're in charge of just all the children on earth or all the women on earth. So, and sometimes non-humans, they're helping a particular so-called alien species because their soul was from that particular planet in another or past life. So they're helping out that way. So they do tend to have bigger responsibilities, and they have to do a lot more work than the healing type ones and twos in terms of self-healing. Now, the healing type fours not only do what the healing type threes do, but sometimes the people that they help or things that they help are even bigger. So the healing type fours may be doing work for the entire universe or multiverse, multiple universes. I know some people may not resonate with that, but just in my personal experience, that is a real thing. Or even the infiniverse, which is all of creation or all of humanity. So they tend to have a bigger target, if you will, for the healing work they're doing. And they pretty much can't get away with anything. In other words, when you know better, the universe is coming and reflecting back to us. Yeah, well, maybe somebody else can get away with eating candy all day long, but not you guys. So we get feedback really, really quickly when we veer off the evolutionary path. So, and it's kind, sometimes it doesn't feel kind at the time, but we get feedback very quickly. So it's very important for healing types, all healing types, of course, but particularly the fours and fives to stay in as much integrity as possible. And that's why when some people say, oh, Dr. Karen, it's kind of neat because you don't have much of an ego compared to some other teachers and, spiritual leaders. And I'm like, I can't afford to have it. Yes, because if I start doing that, I just know then it's like feedback right away. So the healing type fours are also responsible for not only reinforcing these positive fields, but sometimes creating new ones that have never been seen in the entire infiniverse before. So new structures. It's hard to explain without actually, doing healing, but they create new blueprints for all of us and others. Now, the healing type fives, and there's only 4% of the population, at least here on Earth, that are that high of a healing responsibility. So they are the top of the top of the top. So not only do they do what the healing types threes and fours do, they are actually responsible for holding, let's just say, the frequency of and the vision of the ideal future reality of peace, joy, love, harmony for all. So they have to hold that reality. So they're literally holding up a new reality that we have not currently in 3D experienced, but it is coming. So they have the highest responsibility. And like I said, there's only 4% people that I know of, at least in the last count, that have that degree. And what I find, Melissa, is when people kind of can sort of even guess whether they're 3, 4s, 5s, which I would have to say the majority of people watching this are going to be 3 and above. Just saying. That sometimes it gives them some peace because they go, oh, that's why I've been to 20 doctors and nothing's worked. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because you're healing type 4 or 5.
Wow.
And there's other things for you to discover and, explore.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about, particularly the 4s and 5s. How do they have time to do laundry? How do they have time to have a career that brings in the money and go food shopping and cook? In other words, I'm thinking that it must feel like a really heavy responsibility to know that that is what you're here on the planet for. How do you help people integrate this really sort of like cosmic responsibility with being in a human body and having daily responsibilities?
Yeah, fantastic question. I haven't had that asked before. So I love, Melissa, that you just cued in to ask that question, which is very practical. So the first thing is that everything that we do or be, I suppose, in our everyday lives has an impact to our grander mission. So the threes, fours, fives, how you respect yourself, honor yourself, love yourself, take care of yourself, your relationships, how you speak to yourself, how you speak to other people, how you react or hopefully not react, to less than optimal things happening in your life. That all is part of the mission. So it's not like there's you here in your life in the 3D human world, and here's your mission. Now, that being said, there are some times where the three, fours, especially fours and fives, are called to do specific healing work on specific things. And that can take a long time, but at least for the people that I teach and train and work with, we show them the shortest, fastest, quickest way to do that. So that's through something I call the Topican healing method. These are frequencies that we all have access to, or I should say the grand majority of humans have access to. And then if you just know how to focus your intentions and then, use those energies, then the healing is done very, very quickly, usually within seconds. So it actually doesn't take that much time in the day. You would think, because I sometimes have a laundry list of everybody, that I'm healing every single day. If we did it the traditional or another way where you would spend a lot of time and you would like feel this and feel that and use your hands and do hands-on healing, it can take a long time. But with Topican healing, we can do it in basically connect to the quantum, and then in a lickety split second or 2 seconds, 3 seconds, it's done. So I can get everybody's stuff done in 10 minutes a day.
Wow. I wish I could get all my just to-dos done in 10 minutes a day, let alone these powerful healings. Can you tell us a little bit more about this method that you're talking about, this Topican healing method? Just say more about, if you can extrapolate on it and maybe even give us a taste of what it looks like.
Right. So it is a method of healing. So it's a healing modality. And I actually kind of struggled a little bit at the beginning because I was using other healing modalities, which I really liked. And then there would be an exception, and then another exception, and another exception. And so I started amassing in my mind all the exceptions and writing them down. And some of them were very esoteric, may not resonate with everyone who's listening to this, but sometimes it's related to negative entities or extraterrestrial stuff or just weird stuff that I'd never heard of. But I'm just, connecting to the information and writing it down, and then it would work, right? We would clear it, heal it, whatever, and it would work. The patient or client would get better. And I'm like, okay, note to self. And so what happened was one day I was, in a car, and I used divine muscle testing. I first connect with or align with source. And we're actually going to do this in a moment where we get everybody to do that first step in the Topican healing, which is align. And then I use divine muscle testing to test or assess things using quality questions. So that's like the second step is ask. So align with source or divine wisdom, and then ask. And then that's our claim to fame, is really asking the right questions or knowing what to ask. And then the third piece is actually the activation. And again, we'll actually practice that today as well. A little bit of Topican healing. The activation is literally where you are directing those positive frequencies and energies to do the work for you. I'm just the messenger, I'm the teacher and the messenger. I'm actually not doing the work. I just know how to focus intention to have the work done for me. So that's really, really handy.
Cool. So can you walk us through this aligning, asking, activating process?
Yes, absolutely. So the aligning process, and some people will call it connecting to God, connecting to source, creator. For those of you that are a little nerdy like me, science-minded, we call it the 0-point field. So I used to not be really good at meditation, and I suppose I'm still not good at meditation. However, in other words, I don't sit still very well. So I discovered a method through various different, connections and learnings from different wonderful people, made it my own and taught it to my students, and they really, really liked it. It's called stillness through observing internal movement. So STOA for short. So this is the align piece. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it whatever way connects you to source. Some people will do it through movement. Some people will do it through chanting. Some people will do it through calligraphy. Whatever works is what I say. The way I do it is just really easy for me because I don't sit still very well. and just like, oh, it doesn't work for me. So what I do is I share with people is the way into that 0 point field is through the body. So everyone who is watching right now, let's do it all together. This is the easy way to get in. And then eventually you don't need to do the beginning part. So the beginning part is rubbing your hands really, really fast. And all we're doing is generating energy. And in Chinese medicine, they call it qi, energy or ki or chi or prana flowing through the body. And then stop rubbing your hands and then close your eyes. Then focus on the inside of your body and your hands. And then feel any movement, vibration, energy coming from your hands. Kind of like you're focusing on inside your body, beneath the skin. And then just follow that flow of movement or energy wherever it goes. For example, you might feel it down the arm, or you might feel it elsewhere in your body. You can even kind of do a little check-in just to see if you feel it elsewhere in the body. So when we are feeling the movement and energy in the body, we actually tell the mind what we want it to do. We want it to focus on that. And when it's focusing on that, it actually kind of stops talking because we're focusing on where's the energy? Where's the energy? Oh, there it is. Okay, where else is going? Okay, there it is. So it's just given a job to do, and that's how I get into stillness. So see if you can open your eyes and see if you can still feel the energy flowing. So this is kind of like level 2 of Stoa. I call it stillness through observing internal movement part 2 or level 2, or stillness on the fly, where you're actually doing something while you're being. Now, I'm actually feeling the energy in my body right now, even though I'm open eyes and I'm talking to you, Melissa. So it's a little bit more challenging, but as people practice, they can get this very easily. And I love teaching it to children because they just get it. Their mind just like, oh, okay, this is what I do.
And it feels almost like an active meditation, which is so wonderful for kids who generally have a really hard time sitting still, like you were describing.
Right. And the great thing is they have imagination as well. So you can even use that in there. So as I continue to, for example, feel energy in my body, then at that point, I start what I call divine muscle testing. And it's there's different ways of doing muscle testing. Some people use, a finger or hands. They use the body sway method when they're standing. I use a finger rub method, but I use multiple different methods, and we teach all of these in one of my courses. So we get a yes or a no with that. So usually the muscle testing, if for me, when I do the finger rub test, when it's sticky, that's a yes. And when it's loose, or it feels like almost two magnets of the same polarity kind of coming apart, then that's a no for me. So when I do divine muscle testing, I check in my yeses and nos, make sure that my polarity is running correctly, so I'm getting the right thing before I do the ask. And then the ask is actually the question that we ask, which is a yes/no question. And then the third piece is the activation. So what I'd love to do, Melissa, with if it's okay for you, is just to do a little assessment on everyone who is watching either live or on the replay. How's that?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say it out loud, my little checkup, to make sure the divine muscle testing is right on. So now I have my hand down here because it's just more comfortable. So you'll just hear me vocalize a yes or no. So, okay, I'm going to do checkup. Show me a yes. Okay, that's good. Show me a no. Okay, that's loose. So that's good too. My name is Karen Kanji. Yes. My name is not Karen Kanji. No. Okay, great. So for the most part, we're good to go. So here is the magic question. Now, this is a complex question, so it's not necessarily a beginner question, but what we're going to do is ask, what percentage of people watching this, past, present, or future, okay, are feeling energies uncomfortably in their body that is not their own from this body in this timeline? Okay, I get 33%. That's pretty high. So about 33% of sensitive souls, at least in this tribe, are currently, as they listen to this part of, the interview, are feeling other people's stuff or other things that may not be for their highest and greatest good. Now, one of the other quality questions we can ask Melissa is, what percentage of those people, so of the 33%, are supposed to be feeling it because they have some sort of mission or they're supposed to help the other person? Because sometimes I've felt other people's stuff, thought it was a boundary issue, but it wasn't. Like, I have had instances where like my knee would swell, and then I would ask, whose stuff is it? Which is the protocol I'm going to show you after this little demo. Whose stuff is it? And I got that it's Mother Earth stuff. And then I asked, well, am I supposed to do something with that? And the answer is yes. So I was supposed to heal Mother Earth. When I healed her energies, my knee pain went away. So not all so-called negative experiences or symptoms in our bodies is bad. Sometimes for healing types 4s and 5s in particular, sometimes it does come through their body just to get our attention. So we know there's a mission. So let's check. Of that 33% of people who are feeling other people's stuff or other things, of that 33, what percentage are supposed to proxy or clear or heal the other? 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, about 10%. Okay, so 1 in 10 of those that are feeling other people's stuff do have a role in doing that. And then in Topican healing, we just share with our students, then what? Then what do you do? We have little guides that we show them. They get to muscle test and what it is that they're supposed to be healing for the other person. They heal it usually in seconds. It usually just takes longer to ask the question than it is to do the healing work. And then we do an activation. So what I'd love to do now is, Melissa, before we do the activation, is maybe we can share with the listeners, the audience, the Topican healing empathic protocol, how we do that.
That sounds great. Yeah, please.
Okay, awesome. So we align with source. We ask the question, what percentage of what we're feeling, if it's uncomfortable in our bodies, is our stuff or not our stuff? So in the Topican healing empathic protocol, the first part of the protocol is just getting a percentage of what's our stuff and what's not our stuff. So when I say what's our stuff, I mean, and it could be different for different healers, but I mean, what is it that is your issues or problems or things you need to pay attention to for this body in this timeline? Because sometimes not your stuff could be your alternate timeline, your past lives, things like that. So we get a percentage. So for example, for a particular person, we could muscle test, okay, what percentage of, say, a knee pain is your stuff in this body and timeline, and get a percentage. Say it's 35%. Then obviously the other 65% is not their stuff. So once you know that that 65% is not your stuff, then you can ask, whose stuff is it? Now, in our healing modality, we have some charts and things like that, but I can summarize it, is you can check to see what percentage of it is maybe from your past, future, or alternate lives. What percentage is maybe from someone you love that's close to you, mother, father, child, etc. What percentage might be from mass consciousness? That's a really common thing for sensitives to feel. For example, I had a friend of mine who is a nurse who literally became disabled. I didn't know about it till later, but disabled during the pandemic because she was so sensitive. She got so depressed, but it wasn't her stuff. And finally, when I found out, I said, honey, 95% is not your stuff. So you need to learn how to clear that, because it's not your job to clear that. And so she was able to do that and felt a lot better. But she went through months and she literally had to quit her job because she didn't know that it wasn't her stuff. So sometimes it can be mass consciousness. Sometimes it's literally, like I mentioned before, Mother Earth. Mother Earth needs something, needs rebalancing, something like that. And the 4s and 5s, it might be something universal. It might be something multiversal. And so you can kind of divide it up into these things. And then once you have that in that protocol, you figure out the percentages for each of those that you're feeling. Then the magic question is it for my highest and greatest good to heal or process alternate lives stuff? Usually it is. Mother Earth stuff, mass consciousness stuff, and you just go on. Now, if it's not for your highest and greatest good, that means that more than likely you have an unhealthy boundary. So in that case, we would want to improve that boundary. If it is for your highest and greatest good, oftentimes it's because you have a role to heal the other. And so literally a lot of times, even if you don't know topic healing, a lot of times you can just say, okay, I now command that everything that they need healed, that I'm allowed to heal, go ahead and heal that. Thank you. Simple as that. I mean, that sounds really like colloquial and casual, but you can definitely just do a directive. So that would be the activate step in the topic healing. We got align, ask, and activate. So for the folks that are like, uh-oh, I just want to clear the stuff. I'm not supposed to process it. I have a directive for them. So if folks are listening in, you may want to write it down or jot some notes. You can make your own up as well. So I'm going to do the activation stage. So we're going to go ahead and do the align again. So we'll go ahead and have everyone rub their hands, close their eyes, feel the energy in their body. You can stop rubbing your hands now and focus on the energy rubbing that you generated while rubbing. And if you want to, you can keep your eyes closed or you can open your eyes if you'd like. And I'll say the directive, and your job is to notice if the movement or energy flowing in the body shifts or changes. It may or may not after I do the directive. Okay, so here we go. I now command that any energies that you're feeling that do not belong to you and that you do not have to process, be clean, cleared, and released in the highest and best way with ease, speed, and grace. Thank you. Okay, so again, if you want to, you can just close your eyes again for a moment and see if you feel a shift. Some sensitive people who are or have been feeling a lot of things in their body anyway can often feel something different. I'm going to say the directive again. I now command that any energies that you're feeling that does not belong to you and that you do not have to process be cleaned, cleared, and released in the highest and best way with ease, speed, and grace. Thank you. Okay. So just curious, Melissa, did you personally notice anything?
I did. I noticed in the first time that we did the activation. Did I get that right? Yeah.
Oh, the stone.
The stone. I was mixing up my my A's. That I felt some tension in my abdomen, my lower back, and it seemed to have softened and dissipated a little bit. And so I guess I was holding on to something that was not in my highest and best interest. So thank you for showing us this process. It's really cool to actually experience it and to feel a somatic shift from it.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that. In fact, when I did this at the Omega Institute in upstate New York, quite famous, I was doing a demo for some of the faculty. And I think there were about 5 people with some sort of pain, between 3 to 8 out of 10 in pain. We just did stone. That's all we did. We didn't do a directive, anything like that. We just practiced it a number of times, took about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I asked them what their level of pain was afterwards, and it was 0. Wow. Everybody went to 0. Now, why does that happen? Guess what? When we are connected to the 0 point field, that is the creative space. Anything can happen, and healing, when you're connected to that quantum 0 point field, can be instantaneous. Now, sometimes the body does need to rebalance itself. It could take, days, weeks, months to process what the healing was. But a lot of times, especially with pain, just being in the 0 point field is an automatic healing space, if you will. I call it auto healing, for lack of a better term. So when we do this day in and day out, like I might do it while I'm in the bathtub, I might do it when I'm watching TV, I might do it when I'm doing the dishes, although my husband would say, wait a second, when do you do dishes? Then I can go, oh yeah, I can do stone. It's actually being, it's not really a doing, but I can do stone. And so now I've so well practiced that the minute I think of it, I already feel the energy in my body. Wow. So one tip that I give people is that maybe if they can set a reminder for themselves. So maybe they can set a reminder for themselves using their smartphone. If they're into smartphones, there is an app, several like it, called Insight Timer. It has a beautiful little Tibetan singing bowl, and every half hour you could have it ring and it goes ding, And even listening to that sound, you can actually feel the vibration in your body, even though it's coming from a smartphone. And that's good enough. You don't have to do it 20 minutes sitting down at the same time. You don't have to do it for 40 minutes. You don't even have to do it for 10 minutes, even seconds at a time. 1 second here, 3 seconds here, 1 minute here, 3 minutes there is enough. It's the cumulative when you're connected to the auto healing state that makes the biggest difference. And people will notice that over time, their life starts to change, their relationships change, their finances change, and even their health changes. And that's really exciting.
Very exciting. And you make it seem so practical and attainable and easy to integrate into our busy lives, which is really what I was looking for when I asked you earlier about, but how do we have a normal human life when we've got the weight of saving the planet on our shoulders? So you've really been able to bring it into some quantifiable bites that we can just bring into our day-to-day experience. For people that are listening that are looking for more from you, can you tell us how we can connect with you, get your book, learn from you, and any programs that you might have? How do people find you on the internet?
Okay, great. Well, my book is Sensitivity is Your Superpower: How to Harness Your Gifts, Fulfill Your Purpose, and Create a Life of Joy. So it looks like this. And you can get that on Amazon, or if you prefer an ebook format, we do have it on our website at sensitivityisyoursuperpower.com. And or you can just go to KarenCan.com as well. You'll see a banner with that. And here's the cool thing: we actually have our launch gifts available because I just love giving stuff away. You're supposed to stop the launch gifts after the launch, but I'm like, I really love this. So we gathered around $1,000 worth of bonuses. Some are meditation, some are energy clearing and healing techniques, some are trainings from myself and my colleagues, some of my best buddies who are amazing people. So that is available whether you buy it on Amazon or whether you buy it from my website. You just put your order number in, your name and email, and the thank you page will give you the downloads, and also we'll send you an email with that link as well. And then as far as connecting with me, one of the best ways is to get in on our new community called the Light Medicine Community. And we'll put a link, underneath this interview. It's called the Light Medicine Community, and it's on an app called Circle. So you can access that through online on the internet, or if you are an iPhone user, as of this time, there is an app as well, Circle. And you create your own account there. And then when you come in, you can introduce yourself, share with us what healing type you think you are, and we can interact there. We have mini healing events every single month where people can drop in and just receive. We have all sorts of events coming up, some interviews. We tell people about our podcasts and things like that. And every week I send an email which I call the Light Medicine Weekly, with kind of like the spiritual guidance of the week, like whatever I get, kind of a spiritual download. Oh, speaking of which, I was going to mention, when you go into that auto healing state, that's often when the intuition just drops something in. So if somebody has a problem or they're stressed out, go ahead and feel the stressed outness in your body. Just allow it to be there, however it feels. And oftentimes the mind goes, oh, wait, I was worrying, and now you want me to focus on this. So when you focus on it, what happens is your guides and angels and your intuition just drops in the information, and you're like, oh, that's a great idea. So that I didn't remember to tell you that until now. So the community is the best place to interact, and I'm there pretty much every day. And our other gift for our listeners is the Clearing and Protection Spray Formula. So that's actually an MP4 video that you can download to your computer or your phone. You play the video while you have water in front of you. A lot of times we'll use it in a spray bottle. And what it does is it helps to impart positive frequencies and energies. in the water permanently. And then when you spray it in your home, you actually can clear your home of negative energies. We've had people who have like argumentative, family members at Thanksgiving. They spray it, no arguments. Everyone's super nice to each other. We've had kids that have sprayed monsters that couldn't sleep, but they sprayed monsters. Now they can sleep and the monsters are gone. We've had people where the whole family couldn't sleep. They sprayed their bedroom before they went to bed. Now they all sleep. So it's a really quick way. You can spray yourself as well, just to quickly clear your energy field and, clear your space. And that lasts about 24 hours in your space.
I can't wait to watch. And I'm looking forward to having a much more pleasant Thanksgiving this year. Thank you for that. I'm already setting up the intention to have a more harmonious experience. So thank you for that. And thank you for all of these really wonderful tips, these really accessible ways that we can tap into our higher self, this intuitive knowing. It sounds like the real key here is getting ourselves into a space where we can allow that wisdom to come through, because it is trying to make its way to us all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So not only can we go into auto healing, we can get into auto guidance.
It's like hitting cruise control for our souls. Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Melissa.
Dr. Karen. Really wonderful to have you here. And thank you to everybody who joined us for this session. Bye for now.